Upendo, Milwaukee. That means I love you. Welcome to the Nyumba Upendo show on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. I'm Kweku, Amoasi, joined by
Dr.Alisia, Moutry, and I must say the vibe in this room is real this morning.
Oh, come on, it is because we joined by the best. Got to give big shouts out to Jermaine and Debo. What's good?
Indeed.
Listen here, man. The vibe is the vibe.
Hey.
Come on, the vibe is the vibe.
I was getting my bar.
Yeah, you
on,
did. That Amoasi came out of you. That's all
I
right.
know where Kirk Franklin. We had to be careful. Front twerking. I don't know what's going on.
We're going to bring it back and get our P&Ps because we can't stop before we get permission from the elders. And we have that as in the tradition of our elders to get that permission from those to speak. And then we have our prayers to make sure that the words that we speak are blessed, that comes out of our mouth, but in more part is a blessing to you. So you know what, man, today we got a great show. And the reason why I think it's so great is because what it's filled with. You know, we always start about who do we want to dedicate this show to?
Yes.
And I think today is so easy to know who we're going to go with. When we think about our own Dr. Gerald Jones, this is one of the flowers we had talked about earlier. We gave shouts out earlier in the show that we did, but I think especially at this time, because once there's a date for that dash on both sides, you get a chance to really look at the legacy. And I don't know if we'll ever be able to really get a full thing of the legacy, but like listening to Michelle and Debo yesterday, I want to thank y'all because y'all helped the community. It's just like when Keon passed, you know, you need a spot you can go to. And that's why I love WNOB. When we talk about the voice of the community, like other people can say things, but this is where you get not only the words, but you get the passion. And when you think about like Debo, you were saying, man, the amount of people that came in through here, the amount of people Michelle talked about, they got their start when you're talking about how do we do something. Tyler Perry was on the BET, said, I done made more Black millionaires than all of Hollywood put together. People was clapping. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But I was like, look at the people that came through here that make differences in people's lives. You know, sometimes we don't measure it in a millionaire status, but we talk about who do the groundwork, who do the daily work, and where do you get that platform to be able to do. So when we talk about a Keon, but more importantly, who can give a Keon a platform, Dr. Gerald Jones. And I'm always funny because like when you got a doctorate, you go through all this work. And so sometimes people get an honorary, you'd be like, But if some people know who get an honorary and you'd be like, they deserve it because all of what they work did is more than worthy of that title. And he is one that I think when you bestow a title upon somebody like that, I give nothing but respect.
Yeah, I call it that heart love, that passion. Was all within his work. And what I love about it the most is that he didn't just find one way to do it, but it was multiple ways.
Come on.
He did it in a vision way where I could read the work and make sure I educated the people by what I read. But in addition to that, the radio. So I can listen, I can hear. And now we've taken it to the next level. Not only can we hear what's going on, but if you're looking on YouTube or you're on Facebook, they actually can see what's going on. So Dr. Gerald Jones, you will be definitely missed and loved. Respect and love.
And so as we talk about that, we talk about Men's Mental Health Month. I think that's so good because now we have a place where we can come. And I'm excited because like when I think of men's mental health, first thing I think about is the barbershop. You know, because that's a place like, we talk about
and
the church is a place for that.
Right. Yeah. You're right.
But it's like, that's where you go in and you can have these conversations, whether it's on the war, what's going on in politics, whether it's about what's going on in sports, you talk a little bit about the ladies and whatnot like that. And, when you got a barber, that's important to you. And our guest today, I met like kind of in the barber shop and whatnot like that with Rob Edwards over at Ace, right across the street from Garn, was now Lloyd Bridges, Lloyd Barbie, school, but used to be Garn Homes, right on Titonia. And when I started talking to this man, I was like right away, I was like, this dude is funny. Like he's just hilarious. Like, somebody who got jokes, but when you see great comedians, it's because they have a level of intelligence and it's a deepness into their jokes that transfer. So I got my man, Mr. Healthy Words himself, Fonday Bridges. What's going on, King?
Welcome. Come on, man. I'm having an exquisite day.
Good. I love it. I love it already.
As usual, the game is joy. That's the game. So, in order to make a slave, you got to break somebody's spirit. So joy is my response to that.
Come on.
So that's the beginning of the joke.
He's bringing it all in. But no, you know what? It was like, it's funny. Like when you start talking to people and then you see somebody, and then you know 5 other people who knew them that you didn't know. We always say small walk
Yeah,
and whatnot, but you like, you know him, you know her, you know that. And so you've been around telling people a little bit about where you went to school, where you grew up, about your mama. You know, you got to give her some love.
Well, look, I'm gonna give my mama some love. I'm gonna give my daddy some love.
Please, you owe her some love based on what you're telling me.
No, based on what I told you before we got on air.
Right. I ain't gonna, you don't have to say.
I ain't saying nothing.
Okay.
We ain't gonna even repeat that.
I'm old school. I ain't putting myself out here. But what I will say is that, you know, I was fortunate in my life. You know, I had a father. So my dad would be 93 this year. I think what people don't really know, my mother is exquisite and extraordinary, like one of the rarest women. Her name is Evelyn Patricia Terry.
Respect.
She is I would say the mother of art in Milwaukee.
Wow. She's
been a visual artist for 50 years. She's never had a job, never had to serve nobody. I got to watch exquisite freedom.
Come on.
You know, so that's a blessing in blessings. However, my father is really the first African-American male to have a doctorate in Wisconsin. He taught at UWM. I grew up on the campus.
Okay.
It's my playground. So when I was 2, I was in college classes. He had a doctorate in philosophy, so he was challenging me every day to think differently, right? But he was also a minister, so I'm a
combination.
I'm 4th generation preacher's son since slavery. Wow. So like, I don't know if everybody understands. That's 1790. So like, when people talk about America, we are that in my family.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I have a deep understanding of that and appreciation. But then he also was the head commissioner downtown. I watched one day, I can say this now, you know, I watched one day we get pulled over. Okay. White cop pulls us over. My dad hands him his commissioner's. He don't hand him his ID. He handed him the commissioner badge. And he says, you guys can keep going. And I was like, oh, that's what that is. Right, Dad. So one day I also
said, don't even play this game with me.
Look, one day I also happened to be in a courtroom due to circumstances that I committed. And my dad walked past everybody, went to talk to the judge in his room, came back and said, this is the conditions of your circumstances. It wasn't a trial. I didn't have a trial. I can say that now.
Yeah.
Because he'd be 93. He passed 20 years ago. So I can say that now, but that was the experience that I had.
A blessing.
What a unique experience, right? And so, you know, when one of the things he challenged me with before he passed was, is there a way to, once they remove church from schools, is there a way to bring quality back into education? Because he also was on the board for MPS at one point. And he is the reason why there are uniforms in schools, because he saw poverty and said, well, then they see inequality. So if we create uniforms, it's uniformity, and therefore it doesn't let you feel less than, technically speaking. Not that that's not always going to be a psychological challenge, but you know, so that's a little bit of how I got how my parents designed the individual that is sitting with you 50 years later.
So let me ask you this, because I love when we break it down to the real, because you say, hey, if I'm before a judge, accountability, I did some things, but because I had this training, I'm able to come back to it. How did that inspire you to do your healthy words? Because I look at that and I just see positivity all the way around, because when you read something, you see symbols.
You know, the thing that I found myself in at the time was a deep disgust with the construct of our social structure. So I wasn't really at that time, I was upset. How about that as a simple term? And I made some upset decisions. And then after that moment, you know, I sat down and give my mom credit. You know, she's the one that took me in. She was like, yo, your dad set this up. I'm going to give you housing. This is how this going to go. Okay. And her response to me was, you about to go spit your poetry. In order for you to stay with me, you got to go spit your poetry at this event.
Okay.
That was her response.
Understanding the talents and maximizing it.
She said, you're so gifted. You need to go do this. She said, I've never liked poetry until you. And so I'm standing in front. I'm actually at the Holocaust Museum for the first time. I got a clipboard in my hand, and I might as well be a leaf in the wind shaking. I'm like, whoa, right? And that translated into me being one of the agents of change when it comes to language, right? And then I start doing these workshops. One of my teachers. So I'm 19. One of my teachers from high school invites me in. She says, I'll pay you $50 an hour to do a workshop. I know how talented you are. Wow. And so that led me down a path. So that's 30 years. It'd be my 30th year of doing creative writing consulting in schools. From that day forward, what happened is I ended up in a classroom maybe about 11 or 12 years ago, and I'm with 60. I'm over at Martin Luther King Middle School, and I'm about to work on this concept, which was I was going to do a walk of inspiration where every kid was going to write a motivational message, and they end up. I'm in a classroom, 60 boys, really, black boys, 6th to 8th grade, and we sitting there and we talking, and we all just met each other, and I've been doing this now for maybe about 19, 20 years, so I'm confident in what I'm about to deliver. And I said, can anybody tell me a positive statement? And they say, stop the violence. Now, at that time, I understood violence the way the brain works. Violence is what you retain. So if you think a positive idea is violence, then violence leads you to two options, death or jail, really. Mm-hmm. That's your constructs. That's the system. So if you think stop the violence is a positive thing, then that's not it. I asked, what is the opposite of violence?
What was the answer?
And the answer was this.
Crickets.
And we did crickets for 3 minutes, which is
just
a
let 'em
long
sit in
time.
it.
Dude, we sat for
Wait
a
time
minute.
is powerful.
And then one of the babies was like, yo, can somebody tell this? And he went through a couple of explicitives. And I was like, he meant to say extraordinary gentleman. And
Come on with the healthy
I
words.
know it was the kid. I know Malcolm X campus. I know what was said.
So again, so then they was like, none of them could come up with the opposite of it. So I walked out the classroom going, oh, it's not in their minds. And if it's not in their minds, it's not in their materialization. They can't manifest it. And if they can't manifest peace, harmony, and tranquility, that means they will have none. They might have moments. They might have like little elemental pieces of it, but that doesn't mean they can recognize even what happened in those moments.
Yeah.
That's just wind in the air. So for me, I ended up Boys and Girls Club 6 months later, and they said, hey, Fonde, can you come in and build a vocabulary system for us? So I sat down and looked at what I did with myself to rethink my own construct.
That's how we do it.
And I said, okay. And then my mom, which y'all don't know, is my mom is like a stunt. I'm gonna say this about her on the air because it needs to be recorded for all time. Look, my mom, no, for real. Look, check it out. Don't be nervous. My mom has been telling me this is right around this is Jeffrey Dahmer time, right? Okay. My mom, right before Jeffrey Dahmer, she walked to me every day like going, it's just serial killers everywhere, son. You know that, right? And I'm like, no, I don't know that. I'm a child. How would I know that? And she keep telling me this, right? And then one day they're like, it's Jeffrey Dahmer. My mom come in and I'm gonna tell you, no, this woman quit giving us meat. She said, this is what Jeffrey Dahmer was doing to his people. I'm no longer eating meat. And me and my sister called our dad like, she has lost it. We need McDonald's like now. Where is the burger? So the protein, what are we doing? And she never ate meat again.
After that. Wow.
Come on. And that's like 40 years ago. And then she became a health guru. Like, I'm telling you, if you want to, Evelyn Patricia Terry, look.
You said she sat down with Manon.
Come on.
Severe with the juice kitchen.
Come on now.
Love and respect.
Come on. I'm going to give her all the love and respect. Yeah. She want me to say a couple things to y'all. Raw
fruits
diet. And vegetables, enzymes.
Yeah.
And
because when you cook 70%, your food, you break down the enzymes.
And 70%. And I'll tell you one more thing. She want me to tell you. 70% raw.
Okay, got it.
You know what I mean? Like
that plate.
Yeah. Okay, and as far as processed sugars and anything else,
eliminate it.
And if you believe that you can't heal yourself, that's only because you believe the people that want to sell you the pill that won't make sure you heal.
So that's like the opposite of the violence, because you say, hey, how do you eat right?
Come on.
Crickets. Because all we know is what we've been having. It's like the violence, and the food is violent towards our body.
But you got to govern. I mean, you get the opportunity. You ain't got to do nothing. However, it would benefit you.
It would be
it would behoove
from
you
extraordinary
to govern yourself and not let others govern you. You should have I would call it a safe gap where anything that is told to you, you should investigate because you are
trust but verify.
Come on, because you are You are the deity of your realm.
No, I love that because
That-
even
you
like
know,
when you start talking about
true.
planting your food, you know,
Yeah,
we,
come
we always
on.
talk about Mama Daisy and Granddaddy, man. Go outside,
Oh,
go
my
get them
goodness.
green potatoes, those green tomatoes.
on, man.
Go outside,
Oh, my
get your
goodness.
greens. Go
Yeah.
outside, get your
And he
onions.
prided himself in that
Yeah.
garden area as well.
Come on. So my mom gave me health.
Got it.
So then I was able to understand that there was an option for health in words.
Come on.
And that I could feed
I love that
myself the
transfer.
most beneficial vocabulary on the planet. And I had done that. And that's why my esteem, and I may have overdone it, right? Because I like, I'm very Fondayan. I am 100% this. She named me after Fond du Lac Avenue, so I Fonday well. What I didn't know, people tell me, actually, I had a really gorgeous conversation with a white relative of mine, and he was like, Fonda, you're an egomaniac. I said I might have overdone it. But I had to create me. So, and I didn't have no safeguards and nobody else could participate in that. So I'm very Fondayan. I don't know what else to tell you about the process or the experience. I made me this way. And so that led me to like, well, how can I empower the children with the vocabulary? And so I thought about healthy words. And then I thought about creating an orchard of inspiration. And when I started talking to the Boys and Girls Club, I said, look, this is what I want to do. I want to have the kids create a visual mural of every word they can come up with, and they can put that on the wall. And we're going to do paper because it's temporary. I'm not trying to, this is an experiment for me. And they said they're going to tear it down. And I said, well, most people don't tear down what they've invested in.
Yeah.
Ownership, right?
Ownership. So the babies, I get there the first day and I end up kicking it with so they gave me, which began to happen in my career. They started to give me 6 through 18, like 6-year-olds to 18-year-olds. I started to get the plethora. And so they gave me the 6-year-olds. I get in and I put the alphabet on the board, right? And I'm like, okay, let's go. Letter A. And I'm thinking like, they're going to say something like, at least they're going to say like aspire. I don't know. And the baby says apple. The next baby says banana. And the next baby says cucumber. And I go, oh wow, I hadn't even fathomed that healthy words were fruits and vegetables. Even though I experienced it, that's not where I was headed. So I introduced the language back in, and we go through. And my next session, growing in my own process, I go, you know what, fruits and vegetables are all good. I get to the 17 and 18-year-olds. They're like, well, what about a push-up or a sit-up? So that's an action, right? So now we got nouns, we got verbs, and we have adjectives. And I walked out of my first workshop going, I have no idea what a healthy word is. But
isn't that the best part about being a teacher? You think you're going in to teach, but you actually learn too. It's a co-learning situation, right? I love that.
It was a gorgeous thing because it caused me to define, to make a definition.
Love that.
And the definition of healthy words is positive, beneficial, and nutritious.
Say that again. Say that again.
Healthy words are positive, beneficial, and nutritious vocabulary. And it's interesting because I had one kid said to me, well, what if I'm in a fight and I need to, harm somebody? What if harm is my thing? And I said, well, do you want harm? And he said, no. And I said, that's how you know. It's almost that simple. It's what you would desire to get more of. That's the benefit.
I love that.
You know what, man? Our time always runs so fast with this and everything. We're gonna have you back.
Okay,
we're gonna have you back. But I want you to give a final gem with them healthy words, what you want Milwaukee to know as you leave out on this studio.
Here's what I would love for everybody to know. You should ask your children if they know 10 adjectives that are character traits about themselves. Ask them if they know. I go into these schools, I find they don't. I would tell you to cultivate that in them.
Come on.
And then if you are courageous enough as an adult, see if you can, in 5 minutes, identify a healthy word for every letter in the alphabet in 5 minutes. Because that will show you your worth. Because that's what you're giving to everybody when you show up.
Right.
Come on. Fonda Bridges, healthy words on Nyumba Upendo. I tell you, this is the house of love. We're giving you nothing but love. We're going to see you on the other side, Milwaukee. We love you. Show, WNOB 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Hey, I just want to tell you, man, I'm so excited because, you know what, when I look in this studio, I'm going to just be honest with everybody. I overbooked and double booked and everything. But, you know, sometimes you do something by accident. And then I said, maybe it wasn't by accident. Because when I look in the studio now, it reminds me of how Men's Friday used to look with Keon. You know, Keon had 18 people up in this studio. I'd be like, why you call me there, Jacob? I said, I could have called for this. But it was like he wanted that love. He wanted everything that was in that energy that was up in here. And as we talk about, you know, like building a better man, I can't think of any better people up in here. Like when you have people who've been on the show before, you don't even feel like, we ain't got to go through introductions. We just know what everything is about. But what I do want to do is I'm going to throw it to you, Dr. Moutry, and giving everybody the first question of like an introduction, but what it means to them to be building a better man. Because I want that female twist up on it.
Well, first of all, just thank you for allowing me to be amongst you all today. But you know, it's appropriate because we're talking, this is June, Men's Mental Health Month. We're talking about Father's Day coming up this coming Sunday. So it's very appropriate to have you all here. And I'm very grateful for that. I'd like to start with my right. And what I'd love for you to do just to start it off is to tell me what your name is. And we always do this high school thing. I'm just curious what high school you went to. And then finally, so 3 things, your name, what high school you went to. And then I want you to just say, like right off the bat, what do you say created you as the better man that you are today?
Okay. All right. Well, good morning. My name is Walter Cullen Jr.
Junior.
Yes. I am an alum of the school down the street known as Mesmer High School.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm a proud alum of that.
Go ahead.
And the last question, I'm sorry, one more time.
What character, what made you the
Okay.
better man that you are today? Or the man that you are today?
If I could sum it up in one word, observation. A lot of observation. Simply because I know my father, but it wasn't an act of peace, and I don't like to harbor on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
trying to pull on heartstrings to people like that. But I watched a lot of other men that were around or that I seen coaches. My brother-in-law, my man's Holloway over here. Who else? Kevin Kabilski, who was like my big brother for the Big Brother Sister program. And that's kind of how I did it. I did it off of observation. Even TV back during that time in the
social
90s.
Learning at its best. I love
You
it.
had a lot of, good family type Family Matters, was on. So I was looking at Carl,
Yeah.
Fresh
Mr.
Prince.
Winslow.
Fresh Prince. Remember
Yeah.
remember the
Uncle
scene.
Phil, come
Remember the
on.
scene when
He
Uncle
said,
Phil,
why you gonna
Yeah, I
hold me,
felt
Uncle
that.
Phil?
I felt that.
Yeah.
And, I even kept it culturally relevant, and I thought about some other cultures as well. So Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
It was kind of
Mhm.
quirky, but,
Yeah.
Corey had a good,
Love
solid
is love,
father.
like that,
Love is love. So observation.
And I love that because sometimes you say, watch what you're doing because somebody's watching you.
Yeah, and you don't even know.
And you don't even know. And so I love that also because sometimes you gave a lot of positive observations that you saw, but I want you to know in the listening audience, sometimes there's some things that are going on that you've observed that you say, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. But we're going to get into that, but I just had to go there. Let's go to our next guest. Please.
Well, good morning. My name is Curtis Marshall, and I'm a alum of Louisville Male High School. That's my home.
Okay.
Born and raised there.
Come on.
Went to high school there. Went to college there.
Awesome.
So that is where I'm from, Louisville, Kentucky. What makes me a better man is just watching my brother, my older brother,
Oh.
how he became a man. He's older than me, and how he raised his family and his kids and respects his wife and just his lifestyle. And also my son who is now 32 years old. He's also contributed to me being the man as well as the father that I am.
Beautiful.
Respect.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Happy Father's Week. My name is Teron Edwards. I am the founder of Fathers Making Progress. But you said what high school?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Marshall Eagles, baby. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Eagles fly
You
high.
said it with pride too.
Yeah,
Look at that.
yeah.
Okay,
Eagles
all
fly
right.
high. And it's so funny, and you brought him here in spirit. But that's actually where
Yeah,
I met the
Keon.
late great Keon Malone.
Yeah.
And he
Brett
actually,
from Marshall.
yeah, that's right. And he actually helped foster my love for media. You know, I was a freshman, he was a senior. I wasn't even supposed to be in the class, but I had my own media class, but I loved it so much I would kind of skip and come to theirs too. But yeah, you're right. I mean, have it sit here, man, you know, deep like hustle, man, like a hustle game we be here. But manhood, where I get my, I mean, initially I ran out and guessed, you know, I like you, I lost my dad early, but I still remember some of the lessons he got, and I talked about like that last time. But you say where'd I get it from? I'm just trying to remember what the question was.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, he talked about being a better man.
Being a better man.
What
what made me a better man? Wanting to model and be what I wanted to see. I guess that's it. You know, like I just know do as I say don't work. You know, somebody got to sacrifice something if we want something better.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, I love it.
What's going on, everybody? My name is William Holloway.
I love that
Real Holloway.
Give y'all a little Barry White this morning.
Yeah.
So I went to James Madison High School a long time ago. Now it's J Mac. So that's where I come from. And then, you know, one of the things that I believe like made me a better man, I guess it's more than one thing, but like kind of what these brothers already said, like the examples that you've seen. So my first example was my father, you know, W.C. Holloway. And then I had a gang of friends, like it was a community or whatever. They all had fathers, and they were all examples. James Evans Sr., Robert Bly Sr., you know, Jim Perkins. So we grew up around that body of people. But even now today, like you find yourself identifying with people who are like good men, like my guy Walter Cullen Jr. down there. Make sure you get the Jr. on there, and you know, just like Kyle Hayden, all these different people who are, you know, fathers or whatever that really do for their family and want to be that example, not only just for their families or whatever, but they also put those examples and things and try to put that, you know, glowing figure out there in the community as well. So
I love that, and I know you got a question, but before we got 3 other men in the room. And I would love to know. We know who you are. We kind of know what high school you went to for all the other 3. But what made you the man that you are today?
You know what? It's funny that you said it, because I was like, man, I'm glad I don't got to answer this question because I was like, you know, sometimes when you speak, you be like, you don't want to offend anybody with what you say. But it was like all of the men in my life taught me what to do and what not to do. Yeah. So when I think about my dad, Robert Smith, when I think about, you know, my immediate uncles, you know, Elsie Cockerham Jr., Jerome Cockerham, when I think about Clifford Smith, when I think about Everett Smith, when I think about Charlie Smith, these, you know, your first uncles are the ones that's there. And these were men that was a great talents. But like what you learn as you get older, nobody's perfect. But the one thing my dad used to say to me that would try to get me, because T, what you said was so powerful. Like, I'm gonna do what you do, not just what you say. But my dad would tell me about his flaws in real time. And he said, and this is why I wrote the book, Building a Better Man, because he said, I want you to be a better man than me. And so what he was saying is, these flaws that you see I got, I don't want you to have them. I want you to be better than me. And I was listening to this one thing one time, and it was like, the only man in your life who's gonna cheer for you harder than you and root for you harder than you is your dad. But the caveat is if you got a good dad right there where he wants you because you become part of his legacy. So the totality of all of my uncles, my granddad, Elsie Cockerham Sr., it was like these were the men that I watched growing up, social learning. And so you got other men on the outside and the peripheral to add, but those were the ones that hit me daily. So
okay.
What you gonna swing it around?
Yeah,
Shout out to the uncles and the
Come
cousins.
on, ride out.
I mean, why not?
Hey,
Ride out.
for me, it's my dad, the Reverend Dr. Leon Radout. He's in Texas right now. Or Grady. I should never say my daddy's first name. I feel like he's gonna slap me from Texas.
There's always that respect. No
I can't do it. But no, it's just being raised in a 2-parent household, seeing my daddy get up in the middle of the night and go to work 2 o'clock in the morning and come home 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Just how he, you know, had us all in line. And what really helped me was, now that I'm older and I got kids and a grandson of my own, it's just how he had us every Friday for an hour from 7 to 8 o'clock. He had all 9 of us in prayer. Like, we'll be in the living room and hey guys, it's time to pray. So those prayers that, you know, man, that we had those family prayers for an hour, even though it was short time, those prayers actually covered me throughout my lifetime up to now. from some of the stuff I experienced and made it out of. This is just my belief. I believe that he had some prayers stored up in that spiritual bank.
Oh yeah.
That he was able to withdraw from, and that mercy and grace that was put up in the bank account because of those prayers. It was, shared over his kids because he prayed over us. Yeah. And to this day, man, I take that and I do that with my kids. Even though my son is in Atlanta and my daughter, she's working, my grandson, but when I talk to them, I try to instill prayer in them. Make sure, man, that you spend that time with God. Just give them that time that you can spend with them, and that's what made me a great man.
Last but not least.
What's going on? What's going on? I'm Byron Brumfield Bay. I went to the Riverside University.
We ain't gonna hold that against you.
Boo. River rat.
No. Take it easy. Take it easy. I say it was pretty much a melting pot of things. From great male mentors, my father, my grandfather, they always took me under their wing, teaching me right and wrong, to even my city, my peers, watching things they went through, learning from them. I learned so much from other people that I didn't have to learn them lessons on my own.
Oh,
so that's something I'm very appreciative of. That's pretty much it.
No, that's beautiful. And I guess the best part about that is, again, other people went through some things and they were willing to share. And so you could take that and learn from that. As being a teacher, that's like so important to me. I thank you for sharing. Sorry to put y'all on the spot, but I just wanted to know. I mean, we got all this knowledge and this manhood in this room. I think it was just really important to do that. And Dr. Kweku, I'm coming back to you to just talk about, you wrote this book. Why did you write it? And then I'm going to let you set up the next question.
No, you know what, and we can just go up from there, because what we were doing is when I first wrote it, I was setting up a curriculum for 12 to 17-year-old young men when I was working at Children's Hospital. And as we started to do these presentations around the nation, the older men would be like, hey, we need this. And so we started to expand it, and then we went into the correctional facilities, and it was like, oh, we need this. And then we started going into like the business room, start talking with the quote unquote professionals. They was like, we need this. And what we was talking about was like, as men, we get a chance to express a lot of our emotions. No, that's not true. Right. We only get a chance to express anger, or happiness and that thing. But some of those other vulnerable ones, we don't get a chance to do as much. So we was like, how can we be positively assertive? Because you don't want to be weak. You don't want to be soft. We still want that protective feature. But how do we not be so disagreeable, where we get violently disagreeable, where the things we do hurt the ones we love or hurt other people that put us in a position not to take care of those who we love? So we was like, how can we be better? And I didn't know this at the time we wrote the book, but it's this term in Japan called Kaizen, Kaizen. And the concept is to get 1% better every day. So no matter what you're doing, let me say a better prayer. Let me look at these people a little bit more. Let me learn. Let me read this book. Let me watch this. So everything that I'm watching, whether it's a TV program that I'm thinking is just for fun, it's going to speak to my spirit in a different way. And I say, then how do I implement that into my life? And so like, when I'm thinking here, I was thinking about the show last week that we did. And man, I was like, this was one of my favorite shows. And one of it that made it was Coach Holmes came in here. Yeah. And we had this old school wisdom, but we had this young man, Ethan, and when he was in here, he was like, that was my favorite part of the show, like listening to that word. So when I see Brother Marshall up in here, and I know he's the Trailblazer Father of the Year,
yes, sir.
Brother Father's making progress. Well, I know he don't want that acclamation, but it was something you said. He was like, he just came from a fire. Yeah. And I was like, everybody said I got to put out a fire. You were talking about a literal fire, and I'm like, these are the people who are the heroes. Then he just come into the studio talking, and it's like when I see that, I was like, see, that's a hero to me. That's the stuff that I aspire.
And the reason I said that, Kweku, and the reason I made sure I mentioned that, because I know he won't mention it, because that's not why he does it. But I mean, I just wanted to just put that on. Like he literally came from a fire, and he could talk more about it. But his role with the Red Cross, he literally came from a tragedy to be here with us, And and he wouldn't, only reason I mentioned it because I could just feel it on him. I could feel it on him,
No, and it's a lot. And it's like, we all kind of like at a silence and we talk about this. So, Brother Marshall, I want to just give you an opportunity as the elder statesman in the room is to talk about even like why it was on your heart to join the Red Cross, why it is what you do on a regular basis. Because I know you don't do it for awards, but when people signal someone out for an award, that's because they've been doing something and they're not looking for recognition. But we want to say, we want to give you these flowers.
Well, I retired after 31 years in public health. I did state public health. And for about 2.5 years, I was reassigned to the statewide COVID response team. And I saw the disparities and I knew the numbers and I saw people die and I knew where the disparities were as far as the COVID, testing and vaccination and all of that. And I worked from home for about 2 years out in the gazebo. And I was on conference calls 7 days a week, basically all day about COVID. So after that, I said, I'm out of here. So I retired. Speaking to a friend of mine one night, and he asked me, I said, well, what are you doing now, Terrell? He said, well, I'm working with the Red Cross. And explained to me that about 95% of the fires in the state of Wisconsin are in Milwaukee, in particular zip codes. And most people that are affected, of course, are African Americans that are already living on the margins, on the outskirts, right? But yet the responders coming in to work with these families are from the suburbs and don't look like us and talk like us and really don't understand the other barriers that we as people deal with every day. So I said I could do that.
Come on.
So I became a volunteer at the Red Cross. I've been deployed, to Florida and Michigan and all over. But the majority of my work is responding to fires in Milwaukee. And I'll never forget the night. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. The young lady and her family had experienced a fire on Center Street, and they had lost everything. And the police were gone. The fire department was gone. And she was just sitting out there in her car with her 7 kids with no resources whatsoever. So I'm just saying that because for 31 years, I've been in meetings at the state level, a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, and not really seeing the collective impact that's made, particularly on African Americans. So the Red Cross just allows me an opportunity to meet with individuals like this young lady face to face, and give her hope and give her resources and just hand her debit card right there with $1,300. So she could go, to a motel, hotel and replenish food and clothes and take care of her family. So the Red Cross does a whole lot more than just that. So as a responder, then we're just the initial contact. The Red Cross has a buffet of programs that they continue to support families beyond the initial result. Responding to fires where individuals have lost loved ones, obviously those are the hardest, and it's just something that I think we need to do. We need more African Americans in Milwaukee to respond and support our families. So I tell people I've been involved in a lot of things. I'm one of the co-founders of the Milwaukee Fatherhood Initiative. That's how I connected with Teron. I've been all over the country doing fatherhood and just supporting fathers and families. But I think that the Red Cross is one of the most profound things I've ever done and joined, because I'm meeting with people that look like me, talk like me, and I can make an impact right there without a meeting, without criticizing, without judgment, without anything. And that's really the beauty of the Red Cross. So I appreciate Teron bringing that up. And like right now, the fire that was on 27th and Highland, we've had a shelter open for 5 weeks for victims in that fire. We feed them, we bring in resources there, and we're still supporting those families as long as it takes. So what you see on TV, they always say the Red Cross is here, but it's a whole lot more than what you see on TV. And we work with these individuals and families throughout the whole recovery.
So when I hear you talk about the young lady, I always think about that being your why. Sometimes you have to know your why, and then your what has so much more purpose. So when you're doing this work, you have that. That's just one example that you share, but I'm sure you have many examples. And I just like to just encourage folks, when you know your why, your what has so much more impact. And so thinking about that, you all of you are doing a great work. What's your why? Y'all kind of heard one example of it. You have probably many. Well, what's your why? Why do you do what you do?
And I just want to say this, and this is one of the most beautiful things about the FMP Awards. Like, as much as I love this brother, I didn't pick Curtis. It's like, like another brother from the space nominated him. and just like everybody else, it's like the panel selected them. So it's just like these stories that just rise up, you know, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And getting into the segue, it's like that's my why. That is my why. It's just like, you know, we create and change, you know, just seeing, you know, not just change with me, and the change begins with me, but just the change in landscape and the change of, you know, just these circles that wouldn't have existed before, doing things that they probably wouldn't have done before, you know, influences other circles that wouldn't have existed before, doing things that they, and so on and so on. Is that like that's how we create sustained change? So that's my why.
Mine is always gonna be simple. I believe in collaboration. I believe in breaking silos. I believe in, you know, working along other like-minded individuals, but also pulling those people that may think differently, pulling them into the space as well for perspective reasons. And as I was listening to him, it's funny. I just had lunch with a firefighter for the city of Milwaukee. He's actually an instructor down at MATC. And he talked about a lot of those things and even the effects on him as a firefighter, as an African American firefighter, and seeing these things happen and seeing these tragedies. So me continuing to provide that as an outlet on the podcast or even coming on WNOV and speaking of those things, that's my why. I know we.
Well, hold on. We see you just let that slide through. Is that on a podcast?
Yeah, because I'm on WNOV, so that's really not important.
No. That is.
It is.
Because this is all family. This is a community
For sure.
station, and
Yes,
your
sir.
podcast is so important because you talk about so many things. Tell the people what's the name of the podcast. And
Pretty much what she just asked is, what's your motive?
what's your motive? And see, when I listen to it, I see you.
Absolutely.
You have lawyers on there. I see you have therapists and whatnot, and you have coaches, like literal coaches from a basketball standpoint that's evolved into whatnot. So when you say that, what's the motivation?
Well, I'm gonna have to hold you right there. I know time goes so fast when you're having fun. I'm
And-
coming
and
back to
mine,
your
I was
why.
just told
I'm
you,
coming
we
to
got
your high.
you
Guess
coming.
what, Milwaukee? I know time is going fast, but you listen to Nyumba, Upendo. We got to come back, and after the break, we're gonna close out with these brothers that are in this room, powerful men that I'm sitting in the midst of. We'll be back, Milwaukee. We love you. 212.
Hey, welcome back, Milwaukee. You're listening to Nyumba, Upendo. We're talking about men's mental wellness. I just want to remind everybody that we have a free men's mental health and wellness fair in honor of our brother Keon. And it's still hard to even say that like that, man. Jackson Malone, and when I see his picture on this thing, he just had this bubbly smile always. It's on June 14th from 11 to 12. That's this Saturday at the Missing Piece, 3248 West Brown Street. We're gonna put it on all the social medias so you have it. And when we talk about this, I laugh again like this big room of people. This is how Keon had it every Friday. You had to, and I would always be the one who get like 2 minutes. I'd be like, man, Keon, what you call? And I look at Will, who would just be here on page, and I said, oh, I know how you feeling, brother. But I do want to give you the floor, you know, to talk about, you know, like where you're at in this aspect of life.
So just real quick, you know, it's an opportunity to be able to give back to others, you know, that are coming behind us. Like Mr. Marshall just said, you know, there's so many people that are in need, that are struggling, that need resources, that just need somebody to talk to at some point in time, somebody that may be able to walk them through situations and things like that. You know, I got a background in education. I was a guidance counselor for about 15 years. And so seeing so much need with so many kids, and so, not just the kids, though, it was the families as well. And so sometimes you have to get off the kid and be able to help the mom or the grandmom or the caretaker. And so just that ability to be able to help people in some of those situations is very fulfilling or whatever. And I think because, you know, like Mr. Marshall and some of the older men that I was raised around, that's what they did. That's, you know, it was a community thing. And so I want to make sure we keep that community rolling, whatever, you know, aspect of the community that you're working in.
So, you know, kind of going back to you then, Walter, as far as like the podcast, I know you say, oh, this WNOV, but really talk about how people can get a hold to it. But like we talk about putting out literal fires, how you put out fires in a preventative measure with what you're trying to do with the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, the objective is to continue to build up a repertoire and a reservoir of resources for the people. So, hey, jump on the bandwagon now and watch and see who you can connect with. That's the whole thing. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's everywhere. Actually, Kweku owes me a guest appearance.
I do.
But a lot of times that's what it is, and a lot of times I'm learning from those people on that actual segment. So that's the ultimate goal for that. And then, you know, even working with my mans, we're always trying to figure out something.
Now y'all dynamic duo, y'all for sure.
Writing a book, you know, I just need a minute. Me and just need a minute sometimes. So
no question about it.
Yeah, I just need a minute. You know.
And I think that's the hard part. Mr. Marshall, I want to ask you this, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but can you just tell us about the evolution as far as with men, especially like in your generation growing up, it was this real stoic, I can't say anything expressed, to now being able to see men express it, but still hold their manliness. Can you talk about that transition you've seen?
Well, it's different. I mean, it's just so different. When I was growing up, right, the dynamics were different as a kid growing up, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I looked up to men and older men, and they were informal mentors to me. And just mentoring young men today, and even older men, it's different. It's more difficult because young men have so much working against them in society. Not only, you know, the social economics, but the political, and it's difficult sometimes to have a conversation and to connect. And that's why I love to attend like the FLP sessions, because, you know, it's a mix of men and ages and experiences, right? And even though, you know, I'm the senior in the group and I'm the old school guy, and a lot of times they don't give me no respect in the way that I think they should.
Yeah.
But I know that they respect me. I mean, and I feel love. But it's just, you know, inviting to me, and I learn from those guys, and I try to share, you know, what I learned from them, from Javon and T and others in those spaces, you know, with others, you know, in my circles. And it's just so, and then work at the Red Cross, right, and having conversations with men of different races and nationalities and ages in particular. I see the need for those individuals to have mentors, to mentor them. And sometimes those men, they could stand to be mentored, benefit from younger men.
Come on.
That may not have as much experience as
Right.
them. So to me, I think I would love to have more of those multi-generational conversations, right? And I think those conversations need to be expanded And I was in the lobby and I heard some of the conversations earlier about the barbershop, right? But, and I don't have anything against the barbershop talks at all, right? But men like me, they have no hair. I don't go to the barbershop. You have a lot of young people now that do their own hair at home, right? So I would love to see, those barbershops conversations expanded beyond the barbershop.
Yes.
Where black men don't go. I mean, I miss going to the barbershop, and believe me, I've done a lot of work, a lot of talk, smack talk, and all that in barbershops, but I have no reason to go there now.
Well, we got you, Mr. Marshall, and I respect you, so I want you to think I'm cutting you off, but Al Sharp's about to cut us off in a second. So I
but
just
you
want
asked the question, and I had to finish it.
FNP Awards will be on sale for probably about another hour or two. We got
you got to make sure this Friday, Father's making progress. So listen, I just want to thank everybody for coming in. I'm so grateful for all of our guests. I look at Will, Teron, Mr. Marshall, Junior. I'm gonna just say Junior. All right. Hey, listen, join us next week. We'll be back still talking about men's mental health. We want to let you know that we love you, Milwaukee. You see somebody, say something to somebody, encourage them, give them some love that you don't even know that they need. Shopton's coming up next. You're listening to Nyumba Upendo on WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM.